and welcome to another edition of Roadhouse Live. We are live. Today is November 14th. That is 1 for November 2023. Binda, Stonkington, what are we thinking about this November 14th?
Now what?
Yeah, kind of is one of those now what's. You know, I'm going to take a headline for Bear to Breathe. Going to take something for Bear to Breathe. I think we can say that. Even after this ripper to the upside, it's like they're still over here buying. There's just no pause in what it is. And you have to imagine coming into the day that bear is not only trapped, but wondering, how to pay the rent. Is what you really got to start.
Yeah, there was a seller yesterday in the early, at least on ES. There was a seller that, I saw some decent size attempts to keep this thing down, to push this thing down, and I was looking for, you kind of thinking, okay, well, can't hold all that coming into this print. So I was kind of looking for that cover rally late yesterday, which we didn't get. But yeah, right now, I'd hate to be that
covered
guy.
out last night, right?
Maybe.
Maybe. There were red candles last night. He was profitable, I'm assuming.
There was size behind it, so
right on.
We'll see.
Right on. Yeah, no. So interesting day. Just to start out, but I think getting into what this is an overall culmination of things. Data out of Europe came in great. Our data has been strong. The CPI print, gives a lot of, cover for the Fed and what they were doing. Let's put it like that. And it also completely eliminates any conversation of a rate hike unless, data switches up. So anybody still looking for a rate hike, you might need to go get mentally evaluated. It's okay. Mental illness is a problem in this country and globally. It's like mental illness is one of those things that can be very destructive. And if you were bearish with the narrative, might want to go get checked. Now, I say this, and just as easily, the data could have printed back the other way, and we're down 300 points on the NASDAQ right now.
Yep.
That's just how the cookie crumbles. But data is data. It is what it is. And we're sitting here, you can start having that redo the conversation. Q's over 400. SPY ATH over 480. You can do the conversation in your head over and over and over again as far as what ultimately this yields for the market, and as far as looking at it. The one thing that if you are bear that you're going to say, well, it's like the damage hasn't been felt from the economy and the and some of these tickers going into Q1, they're really going to take a beating. It's entirely possible. But if you were short going into this print, you just got fucking railed. So if you want to grab onto that, go for it. But the flow has been pointing up, Bender. The flow has been pointing up. I don't know how many millions of dollars in SPX rounds were fired over the last week to the upside. Don't know how many, but it was a lot. What are you going to say? The only thing that this does do, at least for me, is it makes it a challenging trading day.
Yeah, gap ups, large gaps either direction are tough to trade. Even harder, right? When we were, primarily looking for upside and have been, looking for upside for the last several weeks. So when you get those big moves up, it's like, well, yeah, I'm leaning. Like if you're bearish and you're leaning short, and you're like, yeah, I want to get short. And then you get a big gap up. You're like, woohoo, I get my opportunity, right? But if you're looking for upside and it's a big gap up, if you're not already positioned, then you're like, damn it, now I got to wait, right?
Yeah.
It makes it very challenging. So I know you got into some Tesla calls yesterday. I followed you on that. I picked up SPY calls yesterday. I think those are going to work out this morning. But as far as any positioning to be done today or this morning, it's like, okay, well, now I got to wait and kind of see how this materializes.
Honestly, Bender, it was tough. It's like I was scalping around this morning with futures, trading a little bit, but make sure I covered out, about 15 minutes, 20 minutes into data. Full well knowing in my mind, I was like, this thing is going to absolutely shred to the upside, the way everything was kind of set up within the chart. The only issue with that is, I would have taken a pretty big, unrealized hit on that knife down. That was a good 50, that was a good 50 points down before it ripped. So it's like you can't look. Can you get in front of it? Sure. Can you trade? Sure.
There's no need,
but it takes a different kind of cat.
You got to be a position trader with a lot of money. There's no need, right? Like we've so many times we talked about this. Like okay, I missed that one. But fine, I don't need to be in it. If I can get 10 handles out of the ES, then hey,
then so be it. Yeah. So be it. So yeah, speaking of so be it, let's see. So Glencore bought somebody. They bought Tech, one of those coal things, and we had seen Tech Flow probably 2 weeks out. They were hitting calls on Tech, and it's just like, wow, don't see that name. Hit. Oh, and look, there's an acquisition all of a sudden. I can't get past the fact that the narrative overall, as far as rates and all that kind of stuff, and the beatdown of the Fed that's gone on for about 2 years, that shit's over.
Yeah.
Like that is it. Like you can check that box. That is over. Now, what's going to be the next crisis? What's going to be the next thing that is planted in there that makes life difficult? I don't know. They've tried to sell us on World War III about 35 times over the last 60 days. I really don't know. What I do know is flow is sitting bullish. I do know that I hate myself for not picking up those NVIDIA 510 calls for this week that were sitting there, They just submit 510. It's like, oh, really? Yeah, okay. But we did capitalize. It would appear on the Tesla calls out to next week. They were hitting the 250s, and I waited for a decent little red candle and played snatch on the 245s. Got in for about the same as they got in at the 250s. So that there's ways to maneuver. There's ways to have risk on without risking everything. So you take your wins, you take your nuggets, and at the end of the day, you have to look at it from the standpoint, do I have more money or less money than I did the day before? Not what you should have had, not what you should have, could have, but you have more or less. And if the answer is more, well, you know what? That's a good freaking day, because the market's going to be here tomorrow. And just as easily as we rocket shot up, we can come right back down, or we leg up again. Fuck it. But let's do 500 up on the NASDAQ today and just call it a day. Just go ahead and just bludgeon bear to zero.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me. Me too. Right? It's like, I don't even know how to chart this shit at this point after a move like this. Kind of like when you get like a massive red candle down, it's like, okay, so where do you chart this now? Well, how do you chart this? What do you do? So that's where you come in there, Bender.
I'll take a shot at it.
Griff and Rick, buddy.
All right. Here we go. All right. Let's start with, I'm going to zoom this out just a bit here. Go to a 4-hour. I'm going to start with regular trading hours. You can see this gap right in here that we had left behind. We've now traded up into this gap, and you can see that purple dotted line being the midpoint of that gap, right? So that comes in 44.31.25. We poked our head above that, 44.36.75. So we kind of have been working our way into this gap, trying to fill it, right? Now, when we look at where we are this morning, we are sitting, let's see where we at right now, 44.84. So we're like up in here, 44.84, right in here. So we traded through that gap into this fair value gap. So if I go back to, let's go to 60 minute, and you'll see I have that marked right there, 44.93 half. So that marks the top of this 60 minute fair value gap. We'll go back to the electronic trading hours. There you go. So that marks the top of this fair value gap in this 60 minute candle right here, 44.9325. So I'd keep an eye on, I would expect that doesn't necessarily stop it, right? But can act as a speed bump. And then you have 44.0, let's see, this was 44.0825, kind of the top of this candle before starting this move down. And then just above that, 45.14 half. So if we get to that 45.14 half, any of this stuff in here is kind of head on a swivel, right? But if we take that 45.14 half, I would definitely be looking for a reaction there as far as do we push through it, leave a fair value get behind, trade down into it, and then keep going? Or do we poke our head above, pull back down? And, if I was looking to get short, your first opportunity is the top of this fair value gap with a tight stop. Second opportunity, in my mind, would be above 45.14 half, and it pulls back down, and you look for that market structure shift, right? After it takes some sort of significant level of liquidity, that's where you look for that. And to my eye, that is short term. That is right in here. So have that on your chart, 45.14 half. See what kind of reaction it gets if it gets up in here. And then you can see, again, 60-minute candles, you can see all this in here, how quickly we move down, right? And we know that when we move down quickly, we can also move up through it very quickly. So these are all, there's not a whole lot in here that's going to stop it if it wants to continue this march, this push up. Not a whole lot in there that's going to put the brakes on it. And then you can see the top of this. That's all the way up at 45.6675. And then we've got that previous regular trading hours gap up here, 40. That's all the way up at 46.20. So I'm going to go back to, let's say, get back to current price here. And you can see I put fibs on this move right here just to kind of gauge where that midpoint is. If we do get some sort of pullback, meaningful pullback, right? The midpoint of this candle, 44.5375. If it does decide to pull back before marching higher, if we get a significant, that's 30 points. So that's decent pullback. And that is the area that I would be looking right in here to play scoop. If it can get down that far, right? So like we talked about this morning, it's hard to buy a gap up, right? For me to buy this at this point, I either need to get that pull back into this area, or we need to break. Let's go back to like a 4 hour. I think it's for me, it would be tricky in here for me to try to buy this. I would have to wait until up over 4,500, or I get some sort of better setup intraday that gives me that opportunity, because I can't buy some, 5-handle pullback on this move. And you can, but it's really, really tricky, really challenging. So I'll kind of have to wait and see how this sets up, what the price action looks like. We'll keep an eye on flow, see what kind of information that gives us.
Yeah, man, flow is going to be absolutely critical as far as what's next. We know what's hanging out there to the upside. Um, now we got to see whether or not they're going to come in and, how severe profit taking is going to be, or if, like a lot of people believe, this is just the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, we know that, obviously, the Fed has had their foot on the neck of the market for a while. And if they're, if this really is okay, that foot is no longer there. I think there's certainly some pent up demand. So it could get, like you said earlier, it absolutely could. We could be sniffing and talking about, taking out this 4680 and higher.
A lot of that could just be getting ahead of ourselves, right? It's like you take
absolutely.
today, and I'm just saying that just because I know there's a bear somewhere fucking grinding its teeth, just angry as all hell. So it's like I don't want to get too far in front of it.
Sure.
But when you take the story and then you take the chart and you match them up, massive red candles taking us back under 4,000 on the ES is just not within the realm of possibilities.
Right.
It's just when you take those two things and you combine them and you come in, if you want to sprinkle some flow on top of that, that shit ain't happening without some type of a catalyst that we currently do not have. Now, somebody's going to say, but what about Bund? What about Bund? The Bund. They could be bunding. I don't know anything about that. So just consider myself lucky for not having that be a thought process.
And again, yeah, I agree. We certainly could just be getting away from or ahead of ourselves. And, got to stay flexible, stay fluid. But let's look at this real quick, just to get an idea. So this low from, what was that, 36.63.75 to that 46.82.25. And we had talked about this area being, that 50% to 61.8% pullback. We had been talking about that. We got that pullback into that zone and they bought it, right? So just using these fibs to give us take that off of here. What I'm looking for is this. So we know that pullback was that 50% area. So if we put, just to get some extensions on here, right? 1272 being 49.53 half, 1414 50.97, 1618 up at 53.03. So I only want to put these on here just, if we are back over 46.82.25, over the next couple weeks, months, whatever it is, be aware that that's where this extension sits. So after this leg, this move and a 50% pullback, if this thing crosses 46.82.25, we could be looking at this right there. So anyway, bigger picture, worth keeping an eye on. Know that is within the realm of possibility. Not to say it gets there, not to say it gets there in any hurry, but pullbacks along the way. If it keeps marching higher, you could see that. All right, that's all I got.
Stonkington, what do you have to share with us on this day?
We got things. We can do some sharings. Let's get into it. We'll do some news. We've got Kathy Wood saying Hood Coin Melly Square, all great opportunities in the digital wallet space. Big dark pool on coin last night. A lot of money over there. Worth taking a look. Got that in my room. Let's see. White House releases fifth national climate assessment and announces more than $6 billion for climate resiliency. So that could be, you're looking at TAN, FSLR, SPWR. Let's see, airlines feeling the impact of Israel Hamas. And let's see, then we've got some upgrades and downgrades. Best Buy downgraded. Fisker down. That thing is just getting destroyed. They downgraded that. Plug, similar, getting downgraded. They like Crowd. This is the second upgrade this week so far on Crowd. And what else? Anything else? Unity price target lowered. We saw some puts and flow on that one. And Take-Two price target raised. I think that thing is almost becoming a meme at this point. Everyone's waiting for Grand Theft Auto 6. Let's see. Price. Yeah, I think that's about it on the upgrades, downgrades. So let's get into some charts here. What do we got? I'm going to start on the Russell today because I think this is going to be important. If I'm thinking, if we are, all bear is dead and we are new bull market, this thing has got a lot of work to do. As vendors like showing we're projecting for new all-time highs on the ES. It's like, well, what are you doing over here, Rusty? You gotta catch the fuck up. We've got a potential left shoulder head, right shoulder. We've got a key level here, which would potentially be a neckline. But if we're thinking Mr. T style, this bear with a break-even stop just got stopped out on the pop, and now we've got a little pullback here. So would really want to see us get back above this and hold for the upside move to continue over on the Rusty. We've got this 4-hour gap, and we've got 45 minutes on this 4-hour candle. If we were to close above this gap, then I would be looking for this to hold as support. If not, we've got, let's see, the one other thing also in this area that I think will be important is this daily order block type candle here. So dissecting this candle, we can see if this was a bearish order block of green candle followed by a sell-off, we'd be looking at this midpoint here, which we did have 2 rejections so far. So if we can close above, then Mr. T would be thinking, okay, can this level be a breaker here? So basically meaning pullbacks onto, the tops of these candles would hold and we could push higher. So that's kind of some of the things that I'll be looking for. We've seen good flow on the Russell, but I think there really needs to be, for new bull market, these guys got to catch up over here in small cap land. Below, if we cut down through this fair value gap, you can tell we got, key level down another few points below that, another 10 down from there on Rusty, and then we've got new week opening gap and a volume imbalance down here. Some of the other levels below, but yeah, kind of looking for this inverse head and shoulders to get some continuation to the upside over on the Rusty. If we jump over to the NASDAQ, let's see. So we've got, start on the daily here. Similar, we're breaking down this candle here. So if this was a bearish order block, green candle followed by a sell-off, we could see it worked as a stall out point on the rip on Friday. So now I'd be looking, if we pull back, this would be an important level to keep on watch, 15,622.50. If this was going to work as a breaker, meaning this would be support now. Above, we've got this orange box is going to be a weekly fair value gap. You can see this candle's high to that one's low. We've got a little volume imbalance up there. It'd be worth throwing on the chart. And let's see, right there. So we'll see if we can get up into that. The other one that's notable here, we have this daily fair value gap. This candle's high to this candle's low. Once we have the candle close above, this is a good example of an inversion gap here. You can see that. I should have been calling that more clearly yesterday in the room, but that we went right to the tick, and that was the low of the day. So I should I'm like smacking myself when I was back, like going through the charts more closely yesterday. But so that's kind of what we got. We got the new week opening gap. So for upside, I'd be looking to see if we can cut through this weekly gap. First target being up here, 15,929, and then we get into this volume imbalance, 15,976 with room up to 16,021.25 ish up there. So some targets above, and then this would, if we really start pulling back, I want to see what we do down here, 15,622.25 on the Nasdaq. Some other things I'm going to be really closely following gold. Yesterday pre-market, I was saying I'm bearish on the dollar, bullish on gold, so kind of breaking down this chart here. This was a daily order block again. This was a bullish order block here. Red candle followed by an aggressive push up. We can see the midpoint was the bounce spot. We've got this orange box as a weekly gap, and then we kind of have this falling setup here that we have popped and retested the order block area and pushed again. We're up against this weekly gap. So if we can crack this level to the upside, next key level I'm looking for is going to be this 1971.9, and then we've got a daily gap above. So we've got some nice upside targets on gold. For you guys who like to trade options or individual tickers, looking for a long entry on ticker NEM. They had a news last week. There was an acquisition, which was followed by a 230% average 30-day dark pool that came in. Let's see, I think I have that one marked up over here. This layout. Let's see. This is just the fib. So the dark pool came in up here, right around this spot, 366.66. There's 230% average 30-day dark pool sitting here. We'll get an alert that pops in the room when that hits. But if zooming out on a weekly chart, you can see just a big falling wedge here. So I'm looking for longs on NEM. That's kind of all I got. I've got some levels on Apple and AMD that I'll just be calling live in the room. That's about it.
So a couple of things to be aware of for the day. We do have more federales. We have Barr here in about 45 minutes, Mester an hour after that, and Goolsby after that. So it's like there is still, jawboning to be done as far as all that. Dollar also took a pretty steep sell here. One thing that the dollar usually does is retrace in some capacity. The question is, on the retrace, what impact is that going to have on the market? And we're getting to the point to where I don't know that the dollar is going to be as aggressively negative to the market as it once was. So let's keep an eye on that. Data for tomorrow should be pretty important. We'll get into that intraday and second half of the day as far as what we have. Home Depot reported. They didn't exactly report all that well, but they're back trying to push up into 300. And I think that's kind of one of those things that it was so utterly beat down off of that 330 level that, it is due for a bounce. It is due for some repositioning. But the big thing that they're talking about on the ER is how high ticket items are just not moving. That's one of the notes that is coming through, that they are just not, it just is not happening. So there is that. You guys have anything else?
There's a good quote in the almanac. It's actually for tomorrow, but I'm gonna throw it out there today. People somehow think you must buy at the bottom and sell at the top. That's nonsense. The idea is to buy when the probability is greatest that the market is going to advance. Yeah. I like that.
I like that too.
I like that. Yeah. You don't have to buy the bottom.
Just don't be top tick Tommy.
Don't be top tick Tommy. That's right. That's right.
All right, guys. We've got about 10 minutes until open. Let's get comfortable. Let's get chill. It's one of those things that if you do have stock positions out there, odds are, you're feeling pretty good about what just happened. There's no reason to be a dipstick and fuck it all off.
Mhm.
check this day as one of the days for victory for Bull. That's what you can do. How it closes is how it closes, but right now, Bull feeling pretty good. 9 minutes. We'll see you guys soon.
See you in a few.